One.
Hi, friends. Welcome to Grace and Truth with Pastor Bev. And with me, as always, is my sidekick, Kelsey.
Hi.
And we are journeying through our Women of the Bible. And today's episode is about Rebekah, the Captivator. Ooh,
That's a good title.
I hope it sounds interesting.
I like it.
I before I started digging deep into her story, I had some things in my head that were wrong. For some reason, I was thinking she was a shepherdess, but she's not.
Oh.
And I found some really cool stuff, and we're just gonna dig right in. So are we ready?
We're ready.
Okay, let's go. So, how is Rebekah introduced in the Bible? What do you think?
Rebekah?
Yeah. How is she introduced in the Bible? You didn't know there'd be a quiz, did you?
No, I didn't.
And we've been doing numbers, so.
Well, I know that she was connected to Abraham. Abraham is her father-in-law.
Right.
She was introduced as a woman at the well. Not the well, but...
Wrong.
Really?
Really?
She was mentioned before then?
She was mentioned before then. So, what I found was she was actually mentioned in Genesis chapter 22, which it seems kind of like an afterthought. So chapter 22, verses 20 through 24. Now after these things, it was told Abraham, Milcah, do we remember Milcah? She was the queen.
Yep.
Also has borne children to your brother Nahor. So she and her uncle. Okay. And with Nahor, she had 8 sons.
Wow. That's a lot of boys.
I'm just going to call it Uz, the firstborn, because my husband has a son named Buzz. There was Uz the firstborn, Buzz his brother, Kemuel the father of Aram, Hesed, Hazo, Pildash, Jidlaph, and Bethuel. Bethuel became the father of Rebekah. These 8 Milcah bore to Nahor, Abraham's brother. Moreover, his concubine, who was named Rumah, bore Tebeth, Gaham, Tehash, and Maacah. Thank you. I know. These names, they're fun, aren't they? And no, I'm probably not doing justice to the names. But, so, you would almost think that she's mentioned here as an afterthought. Because it sounds kind of like, well, Abraham, he got word from his family, hey, guess what? Lot's sister is with Uncle Nahor, and they started a family, plus he had a concubine, and he had 7 sons, and he had a daughter that they named Rebekah. Woohoo! Right?
Right.
Yeah. Okay. But is it really unintentional? Because I really think that this was foretelling of what was to come, and I think it was introducing that connection that the writers, the priestly writers, they were like, okay, we're going to put this in here to show continuity within the bloodline.
Right.
So it was very intentional that she is presented as the youngest of these children. So then, let's see. And Rebekah's father was named last, Bethuel. So if he is the last one, so Uz, the firstborn, would have received everything. So her father would not have he would not have had a lot of stuff. Probably.
You'd have to actually like
That's
work
just
for
kind
a
of,
lot what he wanted.
yeah. So I mean, back then there were not as many people, so land was more available. But he wasn't starting with an inheritance from his father, or whatever. So then we get to the interesting part of the story. So most of us know the story that Abraham tells his servant to go to his brother, and find a wife for his son, Isaac. Remember Isaac? He was the one that, Abraham was told to sacrifice, and he didn't, and the Lord stepped in and said, no, don't do it. But because you were willing to do it, you're going to receive these blessings. So, even though Isaac wasn't his technically only son, Isaac was the son who was born of the promise. So that's very significant in this tradition. So he said, go to my brother up north, and it's east of Damascus, to Naharaim.
Oh.
Okay, you've heard of Naharaim?
Mm-hmm.
Nahors.
There it is.
So there it is. I mean, when you read the Bible, you got to remember that some of these places have ancient significance. So Naharaim was the area where Nahor and his family lived. So I just think I'm a word nerd, so I just get caught up in that kind of stuff. So he said, go up to my brother, go up to his area. It's east of Damascus, and it looks like it's over on the other side of a river into Aram, which is why he's called an Aramean. Yeah.
Okay.
So, and he's like, Lord, please send her to me. He's probably tired after a long journey. If this girl comes out, if a girl comes out and I'm just going to sit here, and if she offers to give me, some water, water my camels, that's the one. And Rebekah comes out. It's interesting because she's by herself.
Yeah.
So I think by this time her mother had probably passed on. But it's interesting that, there are no other girls mentioned. I should say her grandmother, Milcah, had passed on. But there are no other girls in the story. It's just Rebekah with her empty jug. She comes, she fills up her jug. Words are tough for me sometimes. Kelsey knows this. Most of y'all know this by now. She fills her jug with water. He asks for a drink of water. She's like, sure. She gives him a drink of water, and she offers to water his camels too. It's significant because this gives you an idea of her generous nature. So if she was not generous by nature, she'd be like, why don't you get off your camel and get your own drink of water, water your own camels. I've known plenty of people who would do that, Yep. It's my water, so I got to take this back to my family, right? But she didn't do that. She was generous. So you want to know what Rebekah means? Maybe you already know. Mm-hmm. It means fettering. And you're like, what?
Fettering. I haven't heard that term.
I know. It's not one. So to fetter is to tie a hoof of an animal tie it so that it can't get away. But if I put it into modern lingo, and the Hebrew Chaldee lexicon said that name of fettering is not unfit as the name of a girl who ensnares men by her beauty. So what I think of it is being fettered. I don't like the image of just being tied down.
Right.
But I'm thinking more captivating. And it goes, Mercy Me has a line, and so that's, but captivating. Her beauty was captivating, and it just immediately ensnared one. Mm-hmm. So I can go with that. So she was beautiful, she was generous in nature and in spirit, and she was described in verse 16 as very beautiful. What does she do after she gives the water and to him and to the animals? Well, he gives her a nose ring of gold and bracelets of gold, and that's quite a gift.
Yeah.
Although back in those times, gold was so readily available, it was of lesser value than silver was.
Yeah, silver was a lot more.
Silver was a lot harder to find. But so he gave her the gold bracelets, the gold nose ring, and that's pretty significant. So it says that she ran to her mother's house. I like that. She ran to her mother's house. Notice she doesn't say she goes to her father's home. She doesn't go to her father. So I kind of think that her father is out of the picture by then. Mm-hmm. And then we see her brother Laban as negotiating.
Where it would have been the father, but it was actually...
Right, but it was actually the brother. So I really think that her father had probably passed on. But notice that Laban wasn't quite old enough to have an established household of his own. Mm-hmm. So this is one of the few instances in the Bible where it is she went to her mother's house. Mm-hmm. And then Laban did the negotiating, and he's like, well, can't you wait? Can't we have a bridal shower and a party for her first? And the servant's like, nope, I got a long trip, I want to go. Which, that sounds so much like my husband. Let's get on the road, let's do this, let's go. No detours, no side trips. Let's just go.
I had to go to the restroom. Hold it.
Well, he's not that bad. And so at this time, Isaac was 40 years old. And when they come near his encampment, she sees this figure of a man who's kind of off in the field, and she's like, well, who's that? And the servant says, oh, that's my master, Isaac. Oh, and so she puts her veil on, and it's just kind of a little, this would be so good to be on the Hallmark Channel romance, They see each other, and she's beautiful, and he's kind of rugged, and, he's 40, and she's 16, 20, something like that. That age still doesn't matter.
Yeah.
No. So it's kind of a beautiful budding relationship that we see here, right? Any questions about that? Okay, because we know that story. Okay, so as a wife, things change a little bit. So we find in chapter 25, which I should probably turn the page. We find in chapter 5 that they had been married for a while. In verse 21, we find that Isaac prayed. And Isaac was 40 years old when he married Rebekah, daughter of Bethuel the Aramean of Padan Aram, sister of Laban the Aramean. Isaac prayed to the Lord for his wife because she was barren. Now, we know she was a virgin. This is not like an immediate thing.
Right.
And so Isaac prayed for his wife, and the Lord granted his prayer, and his wife Rebekah conceived. Easy enough, right? Again, notice this barrenness where something comes out of nothing, and it kind of gives you an image of the garden.
Mm-hmm.
Something, God is creator. You know, it wasn't until Isaac asked, because if you don't ask, you don't get, right? So, but Rebekah's pregnancy was not like the other women's pregnancy. She had a difficult pregnancy. And she was like, what is going on? Because she probably couldn't sleep at night. She probably had a lot of heartburn. When a woman is pregnant and, there's not a whole lot of room there. And so active, right?
They didn't have Sundays, ice creams or weird combinations from 7-Eleven that you can make. They didn't have that.
I don't know where that came from. Are you thinking ice cream and pickles or something?
Most women that are pregnant and stuff would have that. Like my mom.
Like a craving?
She would have the hot dog and she would have the nacho cheese on top with the jalapeno poppers. That's the only thing that she would eat. She couldn't eat anything else. That was the only thing that she would eat when she was pregnant with me.
Okay.
So they didn't have that back
now
then.
We know why she's a little wild. She's a little spicy. So she had a difficult pregnancy, and she could have gone to her husband Isaac and said, well, she didn't, she was like, I'm so miserable. She went to the Lord herself. Mm-hmm. This is really significant because Rebekah is the very first woman in the Bible to actually ask of the Lord herself. So, it's a very significant thing. She didn't go to her husband. Her husband was not praying on her behalf, but she asked the Lord, and then the Lord answered her, which is so beautiful because it validates her request. It's like, the Lord's like, my child, what's going on? What's the matter? And she's like, oh my goodness. She says, if it is to be this way, why do I live? She's like, wouldn't it have been better to kill me now than to have me go through all this? And, when a woman is pregnant, everything goes through your mind. You're like, oh my gosh, I've got swollen ankles. I can't see my toes, and all the other stuff. And the Lord answered her. And he said, the Lord said to her, 2 nations are in your womb, and 2 peoples born of you shall be divided. The one shall be stronger than the other. The elder shall serve the younger. Imagine getting that back from the Lord. Oh, really? They're fighting. They're not even born yet, and they're fighting. Tell you, my oldest and my middle boy, they were only a year and a half apart, almost to the day, and all they did was fight. I feel for Rebekah right there and then. It's like, oh my gosh. But what the Lord said was really significant, that the older one is going to serve the younger. And it's once again kind of referencing back into the earliest of creation, because Cain, who was the oldest, wound up disinherited because he killed his brother. Mm-hmm. And who was the one that the lineage went through? And went through Seth. So it's just really Bible's really cool. It just kind of has the guys on what's that? The Bible Project. They call these hyperlinks. So this is kind of a hyperlink to that. So you have to keep that in mind. But you have to know about Rebekah that she got it. That these were not just idle words, but that she understood it. And we find that out by the names that she gave her sons. Mm-hmm. And yes, she absolutely named them. So Esau means red. If you didn't know that before, it means red. And Jacob means literally heel holder or supplanter. So a supplanter is someone who overthrows another one. So, Esau, rightful heir because he's the oldest. That's what tradition is. Yep.
I thought Esau was the youngest.
No, Esau was the oldest. Because Jacob had his hand or foot, he had his hand out, I think, and they put a scarlet ribbon and drew his hand back, and then Esau was born first.
Oh, that's right. Okay.
And then, now I lost my train of thought.
Sorry.
But Jacob meant supplanter. So she gave him that name of Jacob to affirm what God told her. Mm-hmm. Supplanter. Yeah, you're gonna be Lord over your brother. Yeah, phone's ringing again. You're gonna miss it by the time you get there.
Yeah.
So what happens? We see that a little later that when they were young men, Esau had been out hunting. He was really hungry. And Jacob was making a pot of stew. And he's like, I will sell you my birthright for something to eat. So give it to me. And Jacob's like, okay. All right. No, not a problem, dude. So this goes back to what the Lord said. So the Lord made it happen because it was Esau's nature to not be thinking ahead. He was only thinking of his stomach and his own personal feeling at that time and moment. Anybody else know anyone like that? Absolutely. So Jacob was now the one to inherit. But Esau was Isaac's favorite. And Jacob was his mom's favorite because she knew what the Lord had said to her. And she was like, you're going to do great things. You are going to do great things. Yeah, he's his daddy's favorite. He's going to hunt game and he's going to do that outdoorsy kind of thing. But you are going to receive the inheritance. So she directed her energy towards Jacob and Isaac towards Esau. Let's see. What she does, and I'm going to move ahead a little bit to chapter 27, and then I'm going to have to take a step back. But what she does in chapter 27 was to ensure God's will so that Isaac, who at the time when he gave the blessing to Jacob, disguised as his brother with animal pelts on his arms so that he could, be hairy and because his father was blind. It wasn't as much, some part of me is like, well, was it deliberate trickery? Yeah. Yeah. It really was. Because what she was doing was she was ensuring that her husband did not give the inheritance to Esau, who didn't deserve it because he gave away his right to inheritance over a meal. It wasn't like, well, you'll never know. Oh yeah, they knew. They knew. So she was really smart to do that. To say, okay, he's gone. He's going to be gone for hours. We can get this done. Let's do it right now. Right. And she had been called a bad girl of the Bible for that. Man. But yet, I have more problems with her being called the bad girl of the Bible than I do, because she was responding to God's will.
Yeah.
She was making it happen. She knew what God had said, and she was acting on that. Mm-hmm. So I can't really say I blame her. I probably would have done even more than that, just knowing me. So, but now there's another aspect to Rebekah. So in between the time when the children were born and the time when of the Great Deception, shall we call, there was a famine in the land. So what did people do then? They would go somewhere where there was food in abundance. So where they did not go down to Egypt, which is kind of surprising because that was a huge metropolis by that time. Right. Instead, they went to the coastline. So along the shores of the Mediterranean Sea, so this would be southwest, okay? Along the shores of the Mediterranean Sea is where the Philistines lived. Mm-hmm. And the Philistines, what did they have? What do you think they had?
No idea.
Fish?
Well, yeah.
They had food.
Okay.
They had fish, and there were more land to have crops. But number one, they had fish. So you could throw a line out, throw a net out, and you could have food for your families. So that's one of the reasons why they went there. It was good. It was closer than Egypt. And, I guess they liked the Friday fish fry even back then. So, and what does Isaac do? Isaac's got this beautiful wife who ensnares the hearts of men. And he goes, tell him you're my sister. I'm going to tell him you're my sister. She's like, okay. Yeah. He did the same exact thing his father did. With the same king that his father did. The second time.
Yeah, it was the same king. I keep forgetting that. It's the same king.
But yet it wasn't, it most likely was not the same exact person as king. It was probably more like a son of Abimelech, because they would do that. Like there are instances, I think, in Luke's ancestry, or the ancestry of Jesus, that he's got the genealogy of Jesus that he's got in Luke. He skips generations, and he goes like 5 here and 5 there and 5 there, and he skips, but it doesn't mean that they're not of that lineage. He's just a time saver. So that's something that they did. So here's Abimelech, not the same one. I mean, it's been a long time since the two, but he does the same thing. And so our beautiful Rebekah ensnares the hearts of men, gets taken into the king's household. But somehow, I think it's probably Isaac was in the household as well, because I'm just going to say because he was considered to be the brother of Rebekah, so it was like his whole household was brought in. And did it matter that she had babies? Really? I don't know. It just brings up more questions than answers.
Yeah.
But I find the response to Abimelech, what he says is, let's see. Okay, in verse 8, when Isaac had been there a long time, King Abimelech of the Philistines looked out of a window and saw him fondling his wife. That's in the NRSV. Oh, his wife Rebekah. So Abimelech called for Isaac and said, "So she's your wife. Why then did you say she is my sister?" Isaac said to him, "Because I thought I might die because of her. You're going to kill me so that you can have her, so I just wanted to live." Abimelech said, "What is this you have done to us? One of the people might easily have lain with your wife, and you would have brought guilt upon us." So Abimelech warned all the people, saying, "Whoever touches this man or his wife shall be put to death." So she wasn't in the household necessarily just for him, but she was part of his household. And he said, "Well, somebody could have,
Yeah.
and that would have brought dishonor to us." And it shows that Abimelech, the Philistine king, was actually more honorable than Isaac. Okay. He's like, "Hey, you didn't have to lie. She's your wife, she's your wife. We're good." But then his flocks and herds became too much, and he's like, "Yeah, you're too big for us. Get out of here." So they wandered around a little bit more. And then, Rebekah became a mother-in-law. Mother-in-laws are fun. I'm one myself. I hope I'm a good one. We'll find out. So Rebekah's son Esau was 40 years old when he married Judith. So by this time, she's probably like 80 years old. Okay? And Esau married Judith the Hittite. And the name Judith means...
There's no one in your contacts named Judith. Whose contact info are you looking for?
Alexa or Siri, stop. Cancel. Siri said there's no one in your contact named Judith. Well, there really is. But, okay. So he married Judith the Hittite, and Judith means Jewess, which I think is a little early for it to have that kind of meaning.
Yeah.
But it also means praised. So she was a woman of some significance, maybe a daughter of one of the Hittite kings or a Hittite somebody. And he took another wife, and her name was Basemeth, which means spice. That's why I said you were spicy.
Love it.
He married himself a spice girl. And then he took a third wife, but only after Isaac sent Rebekah's son Jacob to her brother Laban. Do we remember where he is? At Padan Aram. And that was that area that their family was at. It was east of Damascus. Send them all the way to the north and over the river to find a wife, because Rebekah said, "I cannot put up any more with these Hittite women. I do not want my son marrying one of these Hittite women. If you do, I'm gonna die." She can be very dramatic, as you can tell. I can too. And I'm paraphrasing there. But it was true. They wanted someone who would not be probably worshiping the idols. Mm-hmm. Because you think about it, Isaac was a righteous man. Even though he did some stupid things, he was a righteous man. And by praying to God, Rebekah was a righteous woman. Mm-hmm. And they didn't have any idols in their household. So they sent him away to marry a woman from their own family. This is, keep the bloodline pure, whatever. But also, this wife wouldn't bring any idols into their household. Which, that's a little something for a later date. Rebekah's story is so interesting because it's got highs and lows, and she just seems so real when you just sit down and you dig a little deeper. She's everybody's mother-in-law. Yeah, don't like that one. She said, why is my pregnancy so different from the other women? Why am I having a hard time? So she prayed to the Lord. She's devout. She believes God. And more importantly, she believes in his promises. Guarantee you, Isaac knew the promises that the Lord had given to Abraham, and actually the Lord gave those promises to Isaac. They knew what the promise was. They just didn't believe in the promises, but they acted on them. Mm-hmm. And they followed the Lord's bidding. So if you really think that Rebekah's a bad girl of the Bible, why don't you sit with a little bit? Because all of us women are bad girls in some way, shape, or form. It's only by God's grace that we are saved. And interesting side note is that Rebekah is buried in the cave of Machpelah beside her husband Isaac, along with her father-in-law Abraham and his wife Sarah. And they are still there today. So if you ever get a chance to go there, that's kind of cool. So we are going to have some fun stuff coming up. The next two women that we're going to study are Rachel and Leah. And I call them the sister wars. And that's going to take a few weeks. So next week, we're going to have something special. We're going to be celebrating 70 years of women in ministry in the United Methodist Church, and we're going to have a guest. So, we should have a lot of fun. So I hope you join us next time on Grace and Truth with Pastor Bev and Kelsey.